Tonight, on 24, Trump says the Islamic Republic could be gone overnight. Mr. Trump is actually speaking at the White House right now. You're seeing live footage. We'll go there in just a few moments. In the past few minutes, the U.S. president has said that the deadline he set for reaching an agreement with Tehran is final and will not be extended.
From the Iran International Studio, this is 24 with Fardad Farahzad.
Hello and good evening to Iran International viewers in Iran and around the world. As I told you in the headlines, the U.S. president said moments ago that the Islamic Republic might be gone in one day, and maybe that one day is tomorrow. Without wasting any time, let's go to the White House and see the live footage of his remarks.
Previous presidents, they were doing their job. Kim Jong-un wouldn't have nuclear weapons right now. But all these presidents, they were afraid of doing their job right. So to get a result, Japan didn't help us, Australia didn't help us, South Korea didn't help us, and then NATO. And well, NATO didn't help us either. So there were certainly some allied countries that did help us. These are countries that treated us very well. Of course, you could say, well, maybe they'll be a little more active and involved because it is their own territory at stake. Saudi Arabia has been absolutely incredible. Qatar has been incredible. And the Emirates have been just incredible as well. We also had Bahrain and Kuwait, although, you know, Kuwait, of course, accidentally shot down 3 of our planes. Those were the only planes we really lost to friendly fire, as they call it, friendly fire. Unfortunately, they didn't know how to use our great Patriot missiles. The pilot said, "What missile is coming at us?" Patriot. Boom. You know, because Patriot never misses its target. It always hits the target. The planes were coming towards them. Unfortunately, they decided to shoot down these planes. Anyway, NATO is a paper tiger. Now he's coming to meet me on Wednesday. He's a fantastic guy, the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. He's a great guy, but, well, look. What did all this start with? It started with Greenland. We clearly said we want Greenland, but they absolutely don't want to give us Greenland. And so I just said bye-bye to the whole deal. All right, thank you all very much. Thanks again.
Well, you are watching Donald Trump's remarks at the White House, which took place with the Secretary of Defense and also several other U.S. military and security officials, including the CIA director, which had started an hour ago. He referred to details about the rescue of 2 American forces on Iranian soil, and about how the Islamic Republic might fall in one day, and at one point he said maybe that one day is tomorrow. An hour ago at the White House, Mr. Trump stated that the Islamic Republic might be gone in one night, and added that the night could be tomorrow. The U.S. president also emphasized that the Tuesday deadline he set to reach an agreement with Iran is final and will not be extended. According to Trump, the proposal offered by the Islamic Republic was significant, but not enough to reach an agreement. قابل توجه بوده اما برای رسیدن به توافق کافی نیست.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely going to be suffering, but the truth is, they're more than willing to suffer through it to finally get to freedom. We've done a lot of listening on the ground, paying attention to what they tell us. They literally say, please, keep bombing near their homes. They say, please, keep bombing, keep the pressure on, do it. And you have to remember, these are the exact people who are standing right near where the bombs are exploding. And of course, we're being incredibly precise, so we're not hitting them. Instead of fleeing, they say, come back, come back, come back. These are the brave people of Iran. I don't know entirely how they endure what they're doing. The only thing I can tell you for sure is they want freedom. They've lived in a brutal world that you know absolutely nothing about. It is a terribly violent reality. If you dare to protest, they simply shoot you. Remember how 4,000 or 5,000 courageous women were protesting in the streets, and everyone watching was like, oh, the regime's gonna end now. And then all of a sudden, boom, a swift and deadly crackdown silenced them. Boom. Suddenly, chaos hits. 5 or 6 different places. Someone gets shot exactly like this. 1 sniper. No, actually, 5 snipers.
Trump's remarks come as, just an hour ago, Iran's state news agency IRNA announced that the Islamic Republic has rejected a ceasefire in a 10-point response, emphasizing the necessity of a permanent end to the war. Mustafa Daneshgar, a political analyst from Detroit, and Jonathan Say, a Middle East analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies from Washington, are with me. Thank you both, gentlemen. Mr. Danishgar, perhaps these have been the most extensive remarks by the U.S. president in this roughly over a month of war. How did you find his words? He talks about how maybe the Islamic Republic could fall in one day, and that day could be tomorrow. I extend my greetings and sincere respect to you, Mr. Farhad, to the other esteemed guest on the program, and to the loyal viewers and listeners of Iran International. In my opinion, the absolute key and central point of Mr. Trump's speech was his firm insistence on drawing a direct parallel between the complex scenario of the Islamic Republic and the ongoing crisis in Venezuela. Furthermore, the strong insistence he made about specifically wanting someone to emerge from within the existing political structure, from within the system itself, was crucial. He believes this method ensures that the least overall damage and the lowest potential cost is incurred. And he tried very, very hard to constantly push the scenario, to repeatedly push the scenario towards the Venezuela scenario, where someone from within the structure comes forward. And in my opinion, this postponement of the deadline, the 17-day postponement of the deadline regarding reaching the goal of targeting infrastructure, is also a result of this search that the United States believes will ultimately bear fruit. Someone will be found from within the structure of the Islamic Republic to sign that surrender document Trump has in mind, and without the need for three issues. Arming citizens, arming centrifugal forces. He specifically said he wants the Kurds to stay out of this issue. Now, as an example, he mentioned, and the other issue, targeting infrastructure, reaches a point where someone from within the structure can maintain order and security. And the example he brought up here was an important one. He compared it to the Iraq War in 2003, where the police, the army, and, well, according to him, in his account, they were all discharged. The Iraqi army was disbanded, Paul Bremer disbanded it, and then they went and formed ISIS together. They formed Daesh. He cited it as a bad example. This is something that still opens a path and an opportunity for people within the structure of the Islamic Republic, to enter into a deal as part of the process of power transfer and handing over power to the people, both to sign the surrender document and to accept and facilitate the transition from the Islamic Republic without imposing these heavy costs on the people. This, in my opinion, was the essential point of Trump's speech. There are three critical strategic axes that America still avoids getting involved in to this day. As I mentioned, these include arming centrifugal forces, fueling civil war, and striking vital infrastructure. Such destruction might inadvertently push the middle class towards the government, making them fully dependent and bolstering continued support for this military intervention.
Mr. Saye, there are many signs that Mr. Trump and his administration have tried very hard to resolve the Islamic Republic's nuclear, missile, and regional tensions through a surgical approach. But the Islamic Republic has raised the cost to such an extent, not just for America, but even for protesters inside Iran and also for regional countries, that it seems Mr. Trump is now in a position where, even if he didn't want to, he has no choice but to overthrow the Islamic Republic. Yes, and the key point you also mentioned goes back to closing the Strait of Hormuz. I think to some extent, Washington and many Western governments, now including Israel, were hopeful on this point, that when the Islamic Republic expands the war to this extent and essentially closes the strait, NATO forces would get more involved, and it didn't quite play out the way he wanted. But he remains always responsible to some extent regarding the strategic security of the Strait of Hormuz, especially from a highly polarized domestic political standpoint. Since the crucial U.S. elections will take place in the upcoming summer, it is absolutely essential for him to be able to show voters politically that he was both a decisive man of action and actually managed to achieve something tangible and substantial after this war. So, if we want to look at all these points a bit more broadly, the Islamic Republic, because it knows it has no other leverage besides the Strait of Hormuz, maybe now we can talk about that uranium, but that's more long-term. Currently, the Islamic Republic's only leverage is closing this very strait, and for this reason too, they won't give in so easily. They want a better deal. They want fundamental guarantees, something Trump is never willing to bring them. And now we know Trump, at least verbally, is using positive words towards Ghalibaf, calling them intelligent, wise Gil. But we know that whenever negotiations take place, he has to use such language from a diplomatic custom standpoint. But when he knows that these talks will actually reach a dead end, his viewpoint turns 180 degrees. Just as we saw in the 12-Day War, he did the same. Now we're seeing he always used positive words, then quickly changed them. He himself openly said that everyone in this room knows what our plan is, but I can't tell you. Which is very clear when, at the same time, he wants to achieve something short-term, like opening the strait, but doesn't really see any long-term assurance from these new leaders of the regime. So for this, he has two uses at his disposal: to temporarily open the strait so he can politically say, "I've solved this problem," and then, as General Cooper himself said, he'll actually issue a public call to the people, saying, "Now is the time for you to act." And more importantly, he also openly revealed that, America intends to directly facilitate the actual import of advanced military facilities for the people residing in the main cities too. If we carefully look at all these things together, Washington's strategic policy becomes very, very clear.
Gentlemen, please stay with us. The U.S. President, as we briefly mentioned just an hour ago in this very speech, emphasized regarding a potential agreement with the Islamic Republic that Tuesday is the final deadline for this agreement. According to Mr. Trump, a complete regime change has practically occurred, and the individuals who have been present in the negotiations on behalf of Iran so far are more reasonable than in the past and will ultimately surrender.
The end of the war can happen really fast if they just do what they need to do. We've had a complete regime change up to this point. The people who are in charge now are much more reasonable compared to those crazy ones we hit in Phase 1 and Phase 2. The people we're negotiating with now on behalf of Iran, they are much more reasonable. Now, you can call it whatever you want, but I call it regime change, and I think most people will give us the necessary credit for that. We hit a first regime, we hit a second regime. Now, the third group we're dealing with, they're not as extremist as the previous group, and they're smarter. The war has only one goal, that Iran doesn't get nuclear weapons. But we killed Soleimani in the first phase. If they had Soleimani now, the situation might have been very different. We would have won, of course, but, well, our victory would have been more difficult. Because we are, obliterating that country, and I don't like doing this, but well, they don't want to express surrender. They don't want to declare that they've lost and surrender. So if they do that, they won't have power plants, they won't have bridges, they won't have anything. I don't want to explain more because there are other issues that are worse to hit them with.
Mr. Danishkar, some of the statements are still vague and in some cases contradictory, but something that perhaps drew more attention today compared to the things said in the past week or two is again the reference to protesters, talk of arming them. Do you think there's been a change in doctrine? And really, if they want to move towards arming the protesters, one, how practical is that in Iran's context? And two, just as this war itself had unforeseen consequences, how many unforeseen consequences could that whole situation have? Yes, look, in my opinion, this issue, the proposal of these issues, this whole set of issues, arming the centrifugal forces that he said have kept weapons, or arming the protesters, these are happening within a package, within a context. And the context is a negotiation context where Mr. Trump is looking to bargain to achieve the maximum and greatest possible gains he can have, and forcing the other side to surrender. In any case, the Islamic Republic regime is a regime that has massacred thousands of Iranian citizens in recent months, committing crimes against humanity. And its most important challenge right now, these nights and days, is to keep the streets under the control of its supporting minority. Naturally, arming protesters, arming or activating ethnic fault lines in Iran, and activating centrifugal forces can create serious challenges and is concerning for the government. And, well, in my opinion, at this stage, Mr. Trump is using this as a bargaining chip in the ongoing negotiations or the ongoing bargaining to get a maximum, including the issue of the Strait of Hormuz. But the point is it possible? In my belief, as I said, what is and can be a concern for many in the Iranian middle class these days. One of them is the issue of urban warfare. One is the infrastructure that deals with their daily lives. Another is the issue of Iran's territorial integrity. Touching upon these, besides the fact that I think it's fundamentally impossible and also not desirable at all, that's a separate discussion, I don't think it's desirable for a significant portion of citizens either. This issue of integrity, that you point to issues related to territorial integrity, issues related to the daily lives of citizens, meaning infrastructure, or issues related to civil war and arming people in the streets. But it is also not practically possible from afar, meaning you ultimately need ordinary citizens to actively take out these weapons within the cities themselves. My current assessment, at least based on events so far, is not that the urban middle class of Iran, those who live in major cities and who ostensibly should challenge the Islamic Republic, are truly ready to accept such a monumental risk, fundamentally because they recognize that the potential consequences are very vague and the political outlook is uncertain. It is highly unlikely they would ultimately take action to enter such a dangerous field or such a volatile arena. This remains my overarching assessment of the whole situation.
Mr. Saye, the extent of the differences is so great. It's not just the nuclear issue anymore. There's the missile program, the Strait of Hormuz, the threat to regional countries, even the suppression of protesters internally. Really, how much of that Venezuela scenario, even if it's still Mr. Trump's hope for Iran, do you think the situation is more like Venezuela or more like Japan after World War II? We've always seen that Trump's goal was the same even in his first term. He was looking for a better deal. He wasn't looking for a systematic change. But if you carefully compare his current assistant and cabinet now to the administration's first term, a clear shift emerges. These specific individuals who are currently serving in foreign affairs and national security are all people who have openly stated that changing the regime's core behavior is simply not possible. This is entirely unlike what Mr. Pompeo was confidently saying the first time around, with this context in mind, considering that the current view is that it's not just about yes or no, it's about who is involved, and it's about timing. That we know that we can't, well, they themselves call it the Mullah regime, the clerical regime. The people around Trump are referring to this Islamic Republic system that way. They know that in the long run, they can't change the system. And more importantly, they know that the more damage is inflicted on the Islamic Republic, the more they are weakened, they become more dangerous again from that side. Whenever the more pressure is put on them, whether internally or externally, the Islamic Republic itself says this. They have always become more dangerous, both for their own people and for the region. And more importantly, Trump, now that it's his last term, the legacy that will be recorded for him in American politics is fundamentally important to him. And if they want to refer to him in history as a president who just came, dealt a blow, and the Islamic Republic in the region got worse because of it, that won't sit well with him. He will never understand this issue. That's why it's in his own interest. It's in his political interest too. And more importantly, he's not looking for a second-term election again. He wants to finish this issue. And he knows that with, right now, whether it's Mr. Now, we're saying that enriched uranium is underground. Missiles have gone from a range of 2,000 kilometers to 4,000 kilometers. Now, no agreement has been able to include anything so far. That's why, as you yourself mentioned, we're seeing more of Japan than Venezuela. But the main point is that in Japan, there were US ground forces. This time, there won't be. Anyway, there's an understanding that several 100,000 Islamic Republic military forces must to some extent be killed and to some extent defect, and these two must proceed in parallel, along with importing weapons for the people themselves. The discussion is really no longer about which class might accept this or which class might not. It's no longer about bringing millions into the streets. We need a limited number of people in sensitive parts of the country who are willing to carry out operations against the Islamic Republic. And after the January massacre, everything, all perspectives fundamentally change.
And Mr. Denishgar, let's be fair, even for the remnants of the Islamic Republic itself, a potential agreement isn't an easy task right now. You see, Zarif gives a slight signal that let's negotiate, and severe attacks are carried out against him internally. It doesn't seem like anyone right now is in a position, like the previous leader, Ali Khamenei, who could have the final say. If someone even wants to appear to compromise with America within the system itself, it might be considered a suicidal act. It's an important point and undeniable. Anyway, regarding the clear signs of reaching such an agreement on the side of the Islamic Republic, we definitely need to hear a noticeable change in tone and rhetoric. Unfortunately, we're really not seeing such a change in tone and rhetoric. The specific example you mentioned about Zarif is just one. Before that, when Pezeshkian wanted to officially apologize to the Persian Gulf countries, well, naturally, he faced protests, even at that level. But the crucial point that Mr. Trump also emphasized, meaning he explicitly mentioned them in both the first phase and the second phase, is something to consider. I wouldn't rule out this scenario because Mr. Trump has a habit of extreme secrecy, of surprises, of, as they say, signaling right and turning left. Therefore, I wouldn't rule out that he mentioned it in this very press conference regarding that.
There are some issues that I don't want to talk about, despite him bringing up bridges and infrastructure, energy power plants, but I wouldn't rule out that the dredging issue from Islamic Republic officials, especially Revolutionary Guard military officials, is the latest example. A targeted IRGC intelligence head, Mr. Kademi, I wouldn't rule out that they prepared a widespread surprise, continuing these targeted strikes instead of systematically going after broader infrastructure. Symbolically, some things might happen post-deadline, but not widespread. By deliberately acting systematically, that is also a clear way to effectively state that I acted on my established deadline and on the specific ultimatum I gave, but my overarching impression is that Mr. Trump also alluded to this strategy, and even mentioned it directly in this very speech. Moving forward, other strategic phases of selectively targeting key leaders who are actively hindering the successful achievement of this crucial agreement might definitely be on the agenda. In parallel, right now, even if only symbolically, they might strategically go after some of the critical infrastructures that Mr. Trump has referred to. On the one hand, this means targeting infrastructures that have dual use, for example, or going after vital political infrastructures, for instance. For example, suppose they might go towards targeting Baharistan, targeting governorates, targeting the presidential office, and destabilizing the institutions of the Islamic Republic all at once. The element of surprise, an element that is ambiguous, accompanied by ambiguity, and which Mr. Trump has insisted on from day one, should not be ignored in these scenarios either.
Thank you to both of you, gentlemen, Mustafa Daneshkar, political analyst from Detroit, and Jonathan Saee, Middle East Affairs analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies from Washington. Donald Trump said in his remarks today that the people of Iran want freedom, and according to him, they are not coming to the streets only because of threats of suppression and direct shooting. And he said that the weapons that, according to him, had been sent to the people fell into the hands of groups who kept them for themselves.
The Iranian people, when they don't...
The people of Iran, if they don't hear that we are dropping bombs, they get upset. They want to hear the sound of our bombs because they want to be free. And the only reason they're not protesting now they're not protesting, is because if they want to protest, like that wrestler and his friends, they'll immediately shoot them. If they protest, if they go to the streets, they'll immediately be shot because the people of Iran don't have weapons. We wanted to send weapons so that people could confront these thugs and bullies and fight them. And, well, that group that was supposed to transfer these weapons to them, they kept these weapons for themselves, and this has made me very upset. But the people of Iran, as soon as they know that they won't be shot anymore, they will resume their protest. It's enough for them to have weapons. Not even a lot. But on the other hand, if the other side has weapons, on the other side, you know the regime will fall in a few seconds. The unarmed people of Iran lack weapons, and the regime explicitly threatened, if you pour into the streets, we will shoot you. We have reliable information that 45,000 people were massacred.
Our correspondent, Samira Garai, has also joined us from the White House. Samira, one of the points in Mr. Trump's remarks that has really drawn attention is this renewed emphasis on Iranians, on the people, on the protesters, a point that had been more or less absent in the statements of American officials in the past few weeks.
Exactly. The most important point of Mr. Trump's remarks today, both earlier when he participated in the Easter ceremony and spoke a lot about Iran. And now, in the press conference, was the discussion about the people of Iran. In these weeks, he had never spoken in this way and with this volume about the people of Iran, about the protesters, about what is happening inside Iran concerning citizens, concerning the civil activities of citizens in these weeks. Mr. Trump, in a part of his remarks, very clearly says that if these people come out, they will be shot. They are not in a situation now where they want to come out, want to come to the streets for demonstrations, and the situation is such that inside their homes, they are asking us to continue the bombings. If for a few hours U.S. bombs don't land, they tell us, send more bombs. Why did you stop the bombings? They desire more bombings, but it is not yet time for people to want to come out to the streets to protest. In other parts of his address, he focused heavily on the issue of women. He issued a warning and essentially blamed the media in the United States, directly challenging them by saying, don't you try so hard to champion women's freedom, so why don't we pay closer attention to Iranian women? He further questioned the lack of coverage, asking, why haven't any of these critical human rights issues been accurately reflected in the media here regarding Iran? Let's go ahead and listen to parts of his remarks about these important issues.
I don't think you see the radicalization that you...
I don't think that the extreme radicalization you've seen in recent years won't be there. Look at their brutal actions. They've executed women just because their hijab wasn't proper, ruthlessly shooting them in the street. Now we have a very different group. I don't want to say that we are actively talking to them. Basically, they have a strict deadline until 8 a.m. tomorrow, Eastern U.S. time, or rather 8 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern U.S. time. Mr. Wyckoff and Jared are sitting right here monitoring this.
Fardad, Mr. Trump had also said on Sunday that he wouldn't abandon the people of Iran, he had said in an interview with Axios. Today, he also said that the people of Iran are seeking freedom, and this is what they must ultimately achieve. But simultaneously with these remarks about the people of Iran seeking freedom, he is also talking about an agreement with a body of the Islamic Republic that he says is not as radical as before and doesn't have such extreme demands from the United States, like that government that has been in power for the past 47 years, and he believes that there is still a path for an agreement to happen. Mr. Wyckoff Kushner and Mr. J.D. Vance were also present here at the press conference, sitting next to Mr. Trump. And regarding the negotiations, every time he wanted to talk, he would refer to Wyckoff and mention that the Islamic Republic side has until tomorrow, 8 p.m., our time here in Eastern America. We don't know exactly who Mr. Trump is talking to, how many of these individuals are specifically affiliated with the Revolutionary Guard or not. Kalibof's name has come up many times. Once, when they asked him about the parliament spokesperson or the Speaker of Parliament, he didn't deny that he was talking to him. And in other cases, regarding Arakchi, we heard that he's still communicating with Wyckoff via Signal. But we clearly do not know exactly which specific group he is talking to inside Iran, but Mr. Trump is still giving them this final opportunity, and if nothing happens by tomorrow at 8 p.m., he has again emphasized several times that he will decisively attack the bridges, and will also target crucial power equipment, specifically the power plants. And overall, let me also make a critical point about the broader situation regarding the allied countries that are supposedly helping the United States. He repeated his long-standing grievances with NATO, and explicitly said it is not just these NATO member countries falling short. Australia, South Korea, and Japan haven't helped us at all in this matter either. Regarding the Strait of Hormuz, which is an important issue for Mr. Trump, he said today that it's his priority. And in return, he said the regional countries, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, these are countries that were excellent and help the United States in the best way possible.
Thank you, Samira Garai from the White House. As Samira mentioned, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern U.S. time is the American president's deadline. Exactly 29 hours and 2 minutes remain until the time he has set for the Islamic Republic's last chance to reach an agreement. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bakr Ghalibaf, has called the killing of IRGC intelligence head Majid Khadimi a sign of American and Israeli weakness. He claimed they use assassinations to compensate for their battlefield failures. In retaliation, the IRGC announced it targeted U.S. and Israeli operational command, logistical, and military centers. Meanwhile, information received by Iran International indicates that Khadimi's workplace and residence were directly targeted by fighter jets in the airstrike. Majid Khadimi was one of the IRGC's most senior security commanders, who was officially appointed head of the IRGC Intelligence Protection Organization in July 2025 by Supreme Leader Khamenei's decree. He succeeded Mohammad Kazemi, who had been killed in a coordinated American and Israeli attack. Khadimi's crucial appointment coincided with the high-profile dismissal of Hossein Tayeb and extensive security reshuffles throughout the summer of 2022. Previously, he had headed the Intelligence Protection Organization of the Ministry of Defense and had worked for many complex counter-espionage operations. My colleague Murad Vaisi joins us from our Washington studio. Murad, what does his elimination mean for the Islamic Republic situation?
In my opinion, it was another major blow to the intelligence services of the Islamic Republic at a higher level to the IRGC and at an even higher level to the entire regime. The fact that the Israelis can kill the heads of all three major intelligence services of the Islamic Republic within 40 days, it shows their intelligence superiority. They killed Majid Khademi, the head of IRGC intelligence. They killed Esmail Khatib, the Minister of Intelligence, and Ghulam Reza Rezayan, the head of Faraja intelligence. And along with them, they killed a large number of senior officials from the Ministry of Intelligence, Faraja intelligence, and IRGC intelligence. If we want to translate this, what's its significance? It's like if the Revolutionary Guard had managed to kill the head of Mossad, kill the head of Shin Bet, and kill the head of Amman, Israel's military intelligence, meaning all three Israeli intelligence services, and they haven't been able to. Besides this disparity, the Israelis were able to precisely kill the leader of the Islamic Republic. Conversely, these guys haven't been able to kill Benjamin Netanyahu. They were able to kill the chief of staff of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic. Yet these guys haven't been able to kill Eyal Zamir. Look, imagine if in Israel, Netanyahu was suddenly killed. Within 40 days, Eyal Zamir was killed. The head of Amman was eliminated. David Barnea, the head of Mossad, was killed. And the head of Shabak was taken out. Its significance is on that scale.
How much do you think this targeting of remaining Islamic Republic officials can probably help in the downfall of the regime? Because again, now in Mr. Trump's words, something we heard less in the past 2 or 3 weeks, there's talk of regime change. There's talk of protesters coming. There's talk of the Islamic Republic being overthrown.
I think the Islamic Republic is currently facing an unprecedented series of critical losses across its core capabilities. When we put all of these compounding factors together, it makes the Islamic Republic's overall situation extremely fragile, meaning in terms of intelligence, it is being severely hit by deep infiltrations. In terms of internal protection, its most senior officials are being killed. In terms of military strength, its strategic military capability is being continuously destroyed. Furthermore, in terms of its domestic suppression structure, it has suffered multiple very severe blows. Diplomatically, its isolated position in the world is getting significantly worse day by day. Its southern neighbors, who used to appease it, now seek to permanently eliminate this threat. Economically, its situation is worsening, especially with recent attacks on petrochemical and economic infrastructures. Its people are also ready for an uprising at any moment. Meanwhile, Trump seeks a major personal victory against the Islamic Republic, and Israel wants its overthrow for national security reasons. Together, I believe these factors accelerate the process of the Islamic Republic's overthrow. I don't want to give a definitive timeline, but the process of overthrow is certainly gaining more speed with all of these compounding factors. I believe one major mistake some analysts might make is saying they fought for 40 days and didn't fall. This can give us a highly misleading impression of their true stability. The Islamic Republic is failing from within, specifically in these 7 or 8 areas I have mentioned, and these are undeniably the main domains of their governance, In terms of media, it's weak. Economically, militarily, intelligently, economically, diplomatically, everything is heading towards its demise, and it can't be replaced, meaning it doesn't have the ability to rebuild these in these various areas. I think another mistake that the IRGC commanders are making is like during the Iran-Iraq war, where the country's general capacity to continue the war had run out, and the IRGC commanders didn't realize that. General power means military power, economic power, and diplomatic power. And now it seems like the same thing is happening, meaning the general power of the Islamic Republic is severely eroding its military power, its economic power, its diplomatic power, and the people who are the most important group. And their feeling against the government and the IRGC commanders is that we fought for 40 days and didn't fall. I think the same mistake they made in the final years of the Iran-Iraq war, which then led to those final defeats of the war, they are now, in my opinion, making a strategic misjudgment about their own power, and gradually its effects and results are becoming clear. And I think with this intensity of pressure that Israel and Trump are applying,
این شدت فشاری که اسرائیل و ترامپ میارن بقیه آیتم ها میتونه فعال بشه. یعنی مردم که مثلا در 2 ماه گذشته فعال نبودن، اگر ببینن که توان سرکوب، توان نظامی داره ضعیف میشه، اونها هم ممکنه فعال بشن علیه جمهوری اسلامی. من در مجموع فکر می‌کنم توان عمومی جمهوری اسلامی به شدت شکننده شده و فرمانده‌های سپاه ارزیابی درستی از وضعیت خودشون ندارن.
Murad, I agree. The situation is extremely fragile. Many signs indicate the Islamic Republic has escalated things to a point where America and Israel may have no option left but overthrow. However, given the regime's persistent resistance so far, it seems highly unlikely that we will see a clean or peaceful transfer of power when the time comes. It tragically seems that a lot of brutal bloodshed, targeted killings, and widespread destruction in the region's countries will inevitably continue. This ongoing violence persists because neither the American side is willing to back down, nor is the Iranian side. Therefore, there seems to be no alternative option but more tragic casualties. Even now, there is alarming talk of arming everyday citizens. How much do you think darker days are ahead before the eventual overthrow?
I can mention 2 points. One is that the IRGC's assessment and strategy is that just as we went in this direction internally to carry out mass killings so people wouldn't come out, and it didn't succeed, in the regional arena too, they were pursuing this idea that if we play crazy games and expand the war at the regional level, both Khamenei had this in mind and the commanders, this would make the world pressure Trump and stop the war. They acted on this method, but it didn't make America and Israel back down. It made America and Israel come right up to the Islamic Republic's chest, and we're seeing its effects now. Meaning their assessment that they could create deterrence by expanding the war turned out to be wrong. That point you're making, that their overthrow won't be an easy one, unfortunately. Those who rule in the Islamic Republic don't care about people's lives, nor the country's infrastructure. Yes, if the IRGC continues in this manner, an overthrow will happen in the process of overthrow. But the IRGC is pursuing this idea, saying, if I'm not here, the lives of the Iranian people don't matter to me, and I don't care if the future Iran after me has infrastructure or not. For this reason, I think it's better if the Islamic Republic is overthrown even 1 day sooner, because the IRGC commanders completely have this in mind. They say people's lives don't matter at all, because, as Trump said, they themselves have killed 45,000 people. Infrastructure doesn't matter to them either, because they say, if we're not here, well, it's actually better for the future Iran to be an Iran with many problems, and if we do stay and don't fall, not falling is so important that everything else is worth it for them. Unfortunately, if I want to summarize in 1 sentence, the IRGC, with this strategy, is, in my opinion, the most anti-Iranian armed force in the world. And the Islamic Republic, with this strategy, is the most anti-Iranian government in the world.
Thank you, Murad Vaisi, from our other studio in Washington. Israel's defense minister says that with attacks on the South Pars petrochemical complexes in Asaluya, 85% of Iran's petrochemical exports, which play a key role in financing the Islamic Republic's activities and strengthening its military capabilities, have been destroyed. Iranian media reported that Mobeen Energy and Damavand Energy companies, which supplied electricity, water, and oxygen to Asaluya's petrochemical plants, were targeted in the attack. Let's watch some of the footage sent from moments after these attacks together.
In Salouye, the tanks are catching significantly more fire. Initially, it was just one tank, but now they are catching fire one by one and violently exploding. Everyone ran away. Everyone ran away. The place is completely empty now. You scoundrels, let's finally go negotiate. Enough is enough. Do not recklessly endanger innocent people's lives anymore. Gas tank! Gas tank! Run! Run! Asaluya!
Ruhullah Rahimpour, journalist and political analyst, also joined us. Mr. Rahimpour, the scenario they were very worried about, the scorched earth scenario, it seems we are getting closer to it every moment, especially given that Israel and the United States are targeting more infrastructure. Tomorrow, around this time, 3 or 4 hours later, America's deadline will end. How concerning is such a situation, not just for Iran today, but even for the day after the overthrow?
Greetings to you, dear Mr. Farahzad, and also to our esteemed viewers joining us today. You have touched upon an incredibly vital and timely point. The fundamental issue of infrastructure is a critical matter that will heavily dictate Iran's socio-economic future. Even right now, these ongoing infrastructural deficits can severely endanger and negatively affect people's daily livelihoods. However, the current situation is such that livelihoods, countless innocent people across various countries in the region have been attacked and currently remain in grave danger. After the Islamic Republic deliberately targeted vital oil and gas fields throughout neighboring nations, alongside critical water desalination plants, most notably within Bahrain and Kuwait, the conflict practically entered an unprecedented military phase. This aggressive escalation effectively borders on human biological warfare, drastically worsening an already volatile situation. While a specific diplomatic deadline is still in effect, time is rapidly running out. As soon as this critical deadline ends, all strategic signs indicate that both America and Israel will retaliate by targeting numerous infrastructures. These compromised facilities will encompass both smaller local systems and highly significant large-scale national assets. Because in the future, Iran, whether operating with or without the Islamic Republic in power, will find that the people's livelihood directly depends on these critical resources. The point is, what happens politically? The pressing issue is that the Islamic Republic, by stubbornly insisting on its current hardline positions and pushing the confrontational doctrine it is currently pursuing, has essentially paved the way for this crisis. Of course, it is naturally Israel and America who are attacking those vital infrastructures, but the Islamic Republic's desperate persistence on its own survival has practically turned the entire nation into a mere bargaining chip against America and Israel, which will lead to nothing but total destruction. Here, this issue of the country's future is very important. There is also a situation where basically America and Israel can't be stopped from these attacks unless the Islamic Republic is willing to accept conditions and agree to a deal, which just in the past day or two, they basically, again, made it clear to global public opinion that they're not willing to agree to this deal.
Mr. Rahimpour, even before the war started, well, there wasn't a small political divide among Iranians. Now, with the war escalating, and especially with hits to some infrastructures, civilian casualties, we're seeing these divides even widen in some cases. Do these divides, does public opinion at all have any meaningful impact on the war situation on the ground or not, regardless of which way society goes?
Public opinion pressure can significantly increase the complex divides formed among the power elite. First, we truly need to realize, take a moment to carefully think about whether a genuine divide has already formed among the power elite of the Islamic Republic, specifically the core people in power, or not. If a substantial divide has indeed formed, then intense public opinion pressure will undoubtedly increase and deepen this divide. Furthermore, one of the primary reasons that can drastically increase the existing divide between competing political forces in the government is the severe economic paralysis of the government. If, according to the plan America and Israel are pursuing, oil and petrochemical exports are to reach zero, the Islamic Republic foreign exchange income from these sources is to reach the lowest possible, then those divisive situations among political forces will increase. With increasing casualties and, of course, the costs and damages created in the country, I think public opinion can also put pressure to deepen the divides and prevent their repair through military and ideological measures.
Thank you, Ruhollah Rahimpour, journalist and political analyst. And thank you for watching tonight's 24 program. You can watch this program again a bit later on Iran International's YouTube channel.